Blue blood splattered as the Norcadian soldier's head exploded, grey matter splattering the twisted metal walls of the ancient human ship. General Jacob Bell emerged from the steaming cryopod, enormous railgun raised, icy blue eyes promising death. Humanity was no more. Towering reptilian warriors clad in battle-scarred armor stalked through the radioactive rubble of Earth's shattered cities, plasma cannons whining as they hunted down the last desperate remnants of the once proud human race. In low orbit, a fleet of mile-long Norcadian warships hung like bloated ticks, feasting on the suffering below. On the obsidian bridge of the dreadnought Gorgon's Wrath, Commander Altair drummed taloned fingers on the arm of his command throne. The mutilated bodies of human resistance fighters drifted by the viewport, trailing globules of frozen blood. Altair sneered, revealing a jagged row of fangs. Pathetic. 3 centuries of glorious conquest, and still the humans persisted, an infestation of vermin the Norcadian Empire had yet to fully exterminate. A piercing alarm jolted Altair from his reverie. The comms officer chittered nervously. "Commander, long-range sensors have detected a human distress beacon. Origin, uncharted space beyond Kuiper Belt." Altair growled dismissively. "Impossible, no humans have escaped that far." Still, standing orders were clear. All human signals must be investigated. If any survivors were found, Altair smiled coldly. It would be his supreme pleasure to butcher them himself. "Set course, maximum speed, and notify High Command we have rats to kill." Powerful sublight engines roaring. The Gorgon's Wrath surged away from the ravaged Earth, quantum torpedoes and particle lances armed and ready for slaughter. But in the ancient human ship, hanging dead in space, surrounded by the mangled corpses of Altair's troops, General Jacob Bell grimly checked the power cell on his railgun. These alien bastards picked the wrong old soldier to fuck with. It was time to show them how humans fought when their backs were to the wall. Time to put the fear of God into these scaly stormtrooper motherfuckers. Time to take the fucking war back to them. Hell yeah. The Norcadian troops stumbled back, momentarily shocked by the sudden barrage of railgun fire. Bell capitalized on their confusion, gunning down 3 more reptilian bastards before they could recover. The aliens snapped out of their daze, raising plasma rifles and returning fire in a hail of superheated death. Globs of molten metal splashed the bulkheads as Bell rolled into cover. His railgun punched clean through their armor, spilling blue blood and grey brain matter. But he was one man against a swarm. Dozens more hostiles clambered over the bodies of their fallen comrades, bellowing war cries. Time for a tactical retreat. On the obsidian bridge of the dreadnought, Altair's eyes narrowed as he watched the lone human savage his troops. This was no mere straggler, the defiant gleam in his eyes, the fluid economy of motion as he fought. Perhaps the human wasn't so outmatched after all. Bell sprinted through the twisting corridors, heading for the armory. A plasma bolt sizzled past his cheek, close enough to blister skin. He blind-fired his railgun behind him, one-handed, while his other fist slammed into a keypad. On the 3rd try, the emergency beacon activated. If any of his crewmates still lived, they'd be awake soon. "Capture that human filth alive!" Altair snarled through the ship-wide comms. "I want it alive for interrogation." His troops renewed their pursuit with sadistic glee. Bell reached the armory doors, just as a plasma bolt scorched through his calf. He crashed to the floor, teeth clenched against a scream of pain. The wound was cauterized, but blood still gushed between charred flaps of skin and muscle. Dragging himself through the doors, he jabbed the locking mechanism and heard the satisfying clunk of heavy bolts engaging. Wouldn't stop the scalies for long, though. He fumbled through a med kit older than he was, hands shaking as he found a hypostim of painkillers and stimulants. The cocktail hit his system like a hammer blow. Agony faded to a distant throb. His heart jackhammered in his chest. Bell rose on unsteady legs, tearing weapons from their racks. Railguns, plasma grenades, even a back-breaking plasma minigun. He could hear Norcadian cutting torches already eating through the armory doors. No more running. This ended now. Mag-locking the minigun to his exosuit, Bell snatched up extra guns and ammo, then planted his feet facing the doors. The metal started glowing cherry red. Almost time. With a tortured scream, the doors exploded inward, and Bell opened fire. A solid wall of plasma bolts and hypersonic slugs ripped through the boarding party, eviscerating armored bodies and sending twitching limbs pinwheeling through the air. Bell advanced, storming through the blood-slick corridors and cutting down every Norcadian in his path. Scores fell before his onslaught, unable to match his ferocity close quarters. He had to reach the command deck, had to save his ship. On the Gorgon's wrath, Altair drummed his claws on the command throne, a kind of begrudging respect growing as he watched the humans rampage. With an irritated click of his fangs, he activated the generation ship's self-destruct sequence. If he couldn't have the human, no one would. Bell barely reached the command deck in time, sealing the blast doors and frantically stabbing commands into the auto-destruct's control panel. The angry red numbers froze, then winked out entirely. That was too close. A flicker of motion caught his eye. He spun, railguns leveled at the reinforced viewports, where a fresh wave of Norcadian boarders were spraying streams of plasma into the deck. Molten glass ran in rivulets, viewports buckling under the assault. Bell crouched behind a sparking console, weapons running dry, nowhere left to run. This was it. This was how he died, just another bloody smear for the Norcadian war machine to roll over. Suddenly the shrill whine of servo motors filled the air. The command deck security turrets swiveled and unleashed hell, shredding Bell's attackers in a storm of steel. Bell whirled, hardly daring to believe his eyes. A dozen men and women in uniforms as ragged as his own poured onto the deck, taking up firing positions against the boarders. Not civilians. Soldiers. Omega soldiers. Humanity's last, finest warriors. Bell's second wind hit him like a hammer blow. He was on his feet in an instant, scooping up a fallen plasma rifle and shouting for the others to form up on him. "Back in the fight, Omega," he roared. "Time to take it to these alien fucks." On the Dreadnought's bridge, incandescent rage boiled through Altair's veins as he watched the humans rally. Snarling, he targeted the generation ship with a full salvo of missiles. He stabbed the fire command with a taloned finger. If the humans wanted a war, then by the Emperor he would give them one. Warning klaxons blared through the generation ship's halls as the Norcadian missiles streaked closer. Bell gritted his teeth, firing his railgun one-handed, while his other fist slammed commands into a bulkhead terminal. "Omega, fall back to the teleporter bay. It's our only shot." The humans fought for every bloody inch, leapfrogging between consoles and doorways as plasma scorched the air. Bell's gun clicked empty. He snatched another from a fallen comrade without breaking stride. At last, the reinforced doors of the teleporter bay hissed open. Bell waved the others through, laying down a blistering hail of covering fire. Untested or not, that teleporter was humanity's last hope. "Punch it!" Bell roared, hitting the door controls and diving through at the last second. Plasma bolts sizzled past his shoulders. The humans piled into the cramped teleport chamber, the ship bucking and heaving as the missiles struck home. Bell's fingers flew across the controls. He met the eyes of his soldiers, the last of the Omega, all that stood between humanity and extinction. "See you on the other side." A blinding flash, a gut-wrenching lurch. The universe twisted inside out, and the humans materialized on the obsidian bridge of the Norcadian warship. A heartbeat of shocked silence, reptilian jaws dropping open. Then the killing began. Bell and his Omega opened fire as one, railgun slugs and plasma bolts ripping through the bridge crew like a scythe through wheat. Norcadian bodies hit the deck, spurting blue blood from fist-sized holes. "Altair," Bell snarled, scanning for the Norcadian commander. But the wily alien was nowhere to be seen, a flicker of movement in the corner of Bell's eye betraying an escape pod launching from the ship's flank. No time to worry about that now. They had a ship to commandeer and a colony to liberate. While his soldiers took up defensive positions around the bridge, Bell interfaced with the shipboard computer, plotting a course for the nearest Norcadian-occupied world. His hands clenched into fists as the computer spat out an "Access Denied" message, Norcadian script flashing angry red. A security lockout. Without the command codes, the ship was little more than a floating tomb. Hissing through his teeth, Bell opened a comm channel and broadcast into the void. "I'll tear you, scaly cocksucker. I know you can hear me. Transmit the security codes or I'll turn this rust bucket around and personally ram it up your ass." The response was instantaneous, Altair's reptilian sneer filling the view screen. "Bold words, ape. I'll enjoy hunting you down and mounting your head in my trophy room. But please, keep the ship. I want you to die tired." Bell matched the alien's sneer. "I'll carve those codes out of your hide, you fucking gecko." He cut the transmission and turned to his soldiers. "Get to the armory and rearm. I'll hack this lockout if I have to do it with my teeth. We came here to liberate our people and kill some aliens, and I aim to do both before chow time." "Ura?" "Ura!" came the thundering reply. No sooner had Bell plunged his hands into the computer's guts, ripping out wires and hot-wiring circuits, than a proximity alert lit up the tactical display. A flotilla of Norcadian warships dropped out of hyperspace around the colony world, disgorging swarms of fighters and bombers. And at the center of the formation, a dreadnought twice the size of any other, Altair's flagship, the Gorgon's Wrath. "Your persistence is admirable, General," Altair purred over the comm, "but futile. That ship you stole has been slave to my command codes from the start. I let you capture it. I wanted you to follow its pre-programmed course, all so I could recapture you and make an example of you for all the human insects to see. You've already lost." Bell looked to his soldiers, saw his own rage and defiance reflected in their eyes. "Fuck that, I've got a better idea." Hands flying over the controls, Bell plunged the warship into a kamikaze course straight for Altair's flagship. The dreadnought's titanium prow aimed like a spear at the larger vessel's heart. Norcadian ships scattered like ninepins, frantically trying to clear a path. Smashing a fist into the autopilot, Bell locked in the course, then sprinted for the teleporter bay once more. "Omega, on me. We're going to blow a hole in that dreadnought's shields the hard way." The humans piled into the teleporter, the computer counting down the seconds to impact. Reality lurched sickeningly, and suddenly they were on Altair's ship, alarms shrieking as the crew frantically tried to stop the collision. Bell and his Omega smashed into the shield generator chamber like the wrath of God, killing anything that moved and fighting their way through the ship like men and women possessed. They had to knock out the shields before their kamikaze strike arrived. On the bridge, Altair watched the chaos unfold, incandescent rage boiling through his veins. Snatching a plasma rifle, he ordered security to converge on the human borders. "Rip the ship apart. Find the human leader and bring him to me alive and broken. It's time I taught that ape the price of defiance." Plasma bolts sizzled through the air, peppering the bulkhead, as Bell and his soldiers stormed the shield generator chamber. Altair burst through the opposite door, twin plasma blades flashing in his claws. The Norcadian moved like greased lightning, dodging and whirling as railgun slugs whipped past his head. Bell charged to meet him head-on, augmented muscles coiling as he lunged. Altair's blades slashed down in a blur of molten steel. Bell twisted aside, the searing plasma scoring his battle-scarred armor. They danced a deadly waltz through the chamber, striking and parrying in a storm of sparks. Bell's reflexes were fast, inhumanly so, but Altair was faster still. The Norcadian's blade flicked out, carving a smoking gash across Bell's chest. Bell stumbled back with a grunt of pain, his railgun clattering to the deck. Altair stalked forward, blades whirring, in for the kill. Suddenly the ship heaved like a wounded beast, deck buckling beneath their feet. The hijacked warship, Bell's final gambit, slammed into the flagship's hull, crumpling bulkheads like tinfoil. The concussive blast hurled Bell and Altair off their feet, sending them pinwheeling out through a gash in the hull. The void swallowed them whole, icy cold and pitiless. Bell's hand shot to his helmet, sealing his visor an instant before the air rushed out. Altair was less lucky, his reptilian eyes bulging, scales puckering as he clawed frantically at his throat. Bell lashed out, snagging a torn scrap of hull plating. Gritting his teeth, he swung his legs forward and kicked off hard, catapulting himself at Altair. He caught the Norcadian around the waist, arresting his deadly spin. Together they tumbled through the starlit void, rebel warship and alien flagship belching fire as they ground together in a tangled wreck. Bell angled their trajectory, aiming for the gleaming cylinder of an escape pod. Torn loose in the collision and spinning lazily among the debris, the hatch yawned open, a promise of salvation. Bell tightened his grip on Altair and heaved with all his strength. The Norcadian shot forward like a dart, vanishing into the pod's dark maw. Bell hit a heartbeat later, slamming the hatch closed and hammering the environment controls. Blessed oxygen flooded the compartment as he slumped against the wall, lungs heaving. Altair lay twitching on the deck, scaled chest rising and falling in ragged gasps. Bell watched him coldly, one hand poised over the locator beacon. A few taps, and the pod lit up like a Christmas tree. In moments, a blocky human dropship emerged from the drifting smoke, tractoring the pod into its docking bay. The hatch hissed open, and Bell found himself staring down the barrels of his soldiers' weapons, lowered as they recognized their commander. He allowed himself a weary grin. "Took you long enough. Now get this scaly bastard in restraints before—" The pod's rear hatch exploded inward, sending Bell crashing into the far bulkhead. Altair erupted from the pod in a blur of talons and teeth, a plasma blade in each fist. The Omega soldiers brought their guns to bear, but Altair was already moving. He seized Bell around the throat, yanking the general in front of him like a human shield. The searing heat of a plasma blade tickled Bell's neck, drawing a thin line of blood. Altair's voice was a rasping snarl. "Drop your weapons, apes, or watch your precious leader die." Bell felt the searing heat of Altair's plasma blade tickling his throat, a hair's breadth from opening his jugular. His Omega soldiers stood frozen, unwilling to risk their leader's life with a stray shot. Bell's vision started to tunnel, darkness creeping in at the edges as Altair's chokehold tightened. "Do it," Bell hissed through clenched teeth. "Take the shot." The Omega hesitated a moment longer, then opened fire, plasma bolts sizzling through the air. Bell felt the heat of their passage as they scorched past his cheek, the ozone tang of ionized air filling his nostrils. Altair howled in agony, his scales blackening and peeling away as the bolts found their mark. The Norcadian's grip loosened a fraction. It was all Bell needed. He drove his elbow back into Altair's gut, putting every ounce of his gene-modded strength behind the blow. Altair's breath whooshed out in a pained grunt, his blade falling away from Bell's throat. Bell tore himself free from the alien's grasp, snatching up a fallen plasma rifle in the same motion. He spun, leveling the rifle at Altair's head. The Norcadian glared up at him, yellow eyes blazing with hate, even as he clutched his seared abdomen. "Do it, ape!" Altair spat, blood flecking his lips. "Finish it!" Bell's finger tightened on the trigger, every fiber of his being screaming at him to put this rabid animal down. But as he stared into Altair's reptilian eyes, he saw something else lurking there beneath the hate, a flicker of fear, rapidly masked. Suddenly the dropship's comm system crackled to life, a panicked voice filling the air. "General Bell, urgent message from Sentry Station Zeta. A massive Norcadian fleet just dropped out of hyperspace. They're launching a planetary bombardment on the surface. The colony bunkers are already taking heavy fire." Bell's blood turned to ice in his veins. The colony, millions of humans helpless under the alien guns. He looked back at Altair, still snarling up at him, and made his choice. He spun the plasma rifle in his hands and slammed the butt of the weapon against Altair's temple with a sickening crack. The Norcadian crumpled, out cold before he hit the deck. "Get this piece of shit in the brig," Bell snapped, his voice rough with barely contained rage. "We're going planet-side, now." The Omega leapt to obey, dragging Altair's limp form away as Bell stomped to the cockpit. His hands flew over the controls, plotting a steep re-entry course to the hidden coordinates of the Resistance's base. The ship bucked and shuddered as it knifed into the atmosphere, the whole frame creaking in protest. Anti-aircraft fire began to strobe past the viewports, lines of tracer rounds and streams of flak, reaching up from the ruined cities below. Bell wrenched the controls, throwing the ship into a stomach-churning evasive pattern. As they dropped beneath the cloud layer, the full scale of the devastation became appallingly clear. Entire city blocks had been reduced to rubble, towers of black smoke rising from the ruins like the fingers of a rotting corpse. The bunker entrances gaped open, their ferrocrete walls pitted and scarred by plasma fire. Bell could only watch in numb horror as the bombardment continued, each salvo vaporizing countless lives in the blink of an eye. The Norcadian gunners were thorough, ruthlessly efficient. By the time the dropship's skids kissed the scorched earth of the Resistance's hidden spaceport, the death toll had already climbed into the millions. Bell stumbled down the ramp, his legs leaden, barely able to process the sheer magnitude of the destruction. Smoke stung his eyes, the taste of ash thick on his tongue. A few ragged figures emerged from camouflaged bunker entrances, their faces blank with shock. The Resistance leadership ushered Bell into the base's cramped confines, a rat's maze of bare concrete tunnels and flickering lights. They spoke to him in hushed tones, their voices trembling with barely suppressed grief and rage, but Bell hardly heard them. Suddenly alarm klaxons began to wail, the tunnel's lights flashing crimson. A wild-eyed sentry burst into the room, his chest heaving. "The Norcadian prisoner, he's escaped, stole a shuttle from the hangar bay." Bell erupted from his seat, shouldering past the stunned Resistance fighters. He sprinted through the tunnels, following the echoing klaxons until he emerged into the open air of the hangar. Just in time to see a sleek shuttle blast off into the billowing clouds of smoke, Altair's rasping voice crackling over the comm. "This isn't over, Ape. I'll hunt you to the ends of the universe, I swear it. You and every last one of your pathetic kind." Bell could only watch as the shuttle dwindled to a pinprick, then vanished. His hands knotted into fists at his sides, knuckles white against the torn and bloodied skin. He'd failed. Failed his crew, failed the Resistance, failed the helpless millions who'd just been slaughtered. But as he turned back to the shattered remnants of the Resistance, a cold, implacable resolve settled over him. No more running, no more hiding, no more watching his people die. He would rebuild humanity's strength, forge a new alliance from the ashes of this genocide. He would bring Altair and every last Norcadian to justice for their crimes, even if it took him a lifetime. But as Bell strode back into the base, his face a mask of barely contained fury, he knew that the road ahead would be paved with blood and sacrifice. The Norcadian war machine was vast, their cruelty unbound. Many more would fall before the end, friends, comrades, innocents beyond count. The thought weighed on him like a physical burden, pressing down on his shoulders until his very bones ached with it. But he would bear it. He had to. For the lost and for those yet to be saved, for the future of his species, teetering on the brink of annihilation. The war was only beginning, and may whatever God still watched over this blasted universe have mercy on them all. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.